I got this one that still sticks with me like it happened yesterday. Me and 3 buddies from the warehouse in Knoxville figured a long weekend camping would be a good break from loading trucks all day. Just us 4, some tents, and the backcountry in Cherokee National Forest. Nothing crazy planned, but after what went down out there past the Ocoee River, about 11 miles from any parking lot, I keep thinking maybe we should have turned around sooner. It was late October a couple years back. We piled into Harlan's 2019 Ford F-150 right after work on Friday. The truck smelled like old coffee and the air freshener he kept forgetting to replace. We stopped at that Pilot gas station on I-75. Harlan and Jet ran in quick and came out with Monster Ultras and a couple bags of beef jerky. Pax grabbed some chips. I just got water. The guy at the counter said the leaves were real pretty this time of year. We laughed and kept driving. We hit the trailhead around 4 in the afternoon. The hike in took a few hours, but it felt good to stretch our legs after sitting in the truck. Trees were turning orange and yellow. We found a flat spot near a little creek, set up the tents, and got a fire going before dark. First night was normal. We sat around talking about work stuff, how the boss kept changing the shift schedule again. Pax kept complaining his new boots were rubbing his heels a little. Harlan told that dumb story about the time his cat knocked over the trash at home and the kitchen smelled for days. We all laughed, nothing weird, just 4 guys unwinding. Saturday morning I woke up early. The others were still snoring. I stepped away from camp to take a leak, and that's when I saw it. This narrow little trail splitting off from the main one we came in on. Fresh boot prints in the mud. They headed deeper into the woods, not back toward the parking lot. Only one direction, inward. I stood there, looking at them for a minute. The prints looked recent, like from the day before. I thought about waking the guys up and showing them, but I didn't. Figured it was probably some other hikers who went off trail or something. Didn't want to make a big deal and kill the vibe. So I just walked back to camp and started the coffee like everything was fine. That afternoon, we decided to walk around a bit, stretch our legs more. We weren't even a mile from camp when we ran into this older guy. Had to be in his 60s. Dirty Carhartt jacket, gray hair sticking out under a faded cap. No backpack, no water bottle, nothing, just walking slow along the path. He stopped when he saw us, smiled real big, like we were old friends. "Hey there," he said. "You boys camped around here somewhere?" Jet gave a vague answer, something like, just back that way a little." The guy nodded, still smiling. Then he kept walking, right in the direction of our camp. We stood there watching him disappear around the bend. Nobody said much after that. Harlan shrugged, and we kept going our way. That night, we built the fire up again and cooked some hot dogs. Everything felt okay at first. Then around 10 or so, we started hearing it. Footsteps, slow ones, circling the campsite, not rushing like an animal would, just one foot after the other, crunching leaves, then pausing for a few seconds. It went all the way around us. Then it stopped, started again. We got quiet. Pax whispered, "You guys hearing that too?" We sat there listening. It kept going for over an hour. No flashlight beam, no talking, just those careful steps in the dark. Jet wanted to call out, but I shook my head. We waited. Finally, we grabbed our headlamps and clicked them on, pointing them out into the trees. The beams lit up nothing but trunks and bushes. Whatever it was gone. We didn't sleep much after that. Kept the fire high and took turns watching. Morning came and we crawled out of the tents. First thing we checked was the food bag. We had hung it proper the night before, way up in a tree with the right knots and the whole counterweight setup. The kind that takes a person who knows what they're doing to undo. But there it was, lowered nice and neat. Someone had gone through every bit of it, opened the zip bags, moved stuff around, then hung it right back up exactly how we had it. Nothing was missing. Not one thing. We all just stood there staring. Harlan looked at the bag and muttered what the fuck under his breath. Nobody argued. We packed up fast, folded tents, shoved everything in the packs, hiked out the same day, didn't even finish the weekend like we planned. The drive home was quiet. We stopped at the same pilot on the way back. Nobody bought monsters this time. When I got to my place, I unpacked and threw my dirty clothes in the washer. My wife asked why we came home early. I told her the weather looked iffy. Didn't mention the rest. I remember the kitchen smelled a little from the trash I forgot to take out before we left. Stupid little thing, but it felt normal. 2 weeks later, I was sitting on the couch one night, scrolling on my phone. Couldn't stop thinking about that guy in the Carhartt jacket. I typed in Cherokee National Forest and backcountry warnings. Up popped this National Forest Service bulletin from 8 months before. It warned about a white male in his 60s, spotted living out there illegal in that exact section past the Ocoee. Said he was unstable and maybe dangerous. Rangers had tried to move him out 3 different times, but he slipped away each one. There was a composite sketch right there on the page. It was him. Same face, same jacket. I showed the guys the next day at work. We stood in the break room looking at my phone. Nobody knew what to say. We just kind of nodded and went back to loading trucks. I still check the news for that area sometimes. Nothing new ever pops up. But those boot prints heading only one way in, the way that man kept walking toward our camp, the way the food bag got put back perfect, it all sits in my head. I don't know if he was just watching or what he wanted. We never went back. And I sure as hell won't be doing any more deep woods trips with the guys. Some things you just don't need to test twice. I used to think the dark parts of Mississippi were just long, boring miles. Then I started seeing one broken down car on the same stretch of road near the woods by Tishomingo State Park. After that, I learned how fast a normal night can turn into the kind you never shake off. I still think about it every winter night. My name is Dallin Rusk, and I haul freight for a company out of Memphis. I was 28 then, driving a Peterbilt 579 on the same run between Highway 45 and a county road that bent through a quiet strip of trees outside Iuka. It was a route I knew by smell, by curve, by the way my trailer shook on one bad patch of pavement. 14 miles of almost nothing. No stores, no houses, just woods on both sides and gaps where the trees closed in. The first time I saw the Altima, it was around 2:15 in the morning. Burgundy Nissan, hazards blinking, driver door cracked open. It sat on the shoulder like somebody had left it in a hurry. I slowed down and looked as I passed, but I kept going. I figured maybe a flat tire, maybe a drunk driver, maybe some couple fighting and walking it out. I called it in to non-emergency dispatch out of habit, said the plate while keeping my eyes on the road. A few miles later, I saw a woman walking fast on the shoulder. No jacket, light jeans, dark hair hanging in her face. She kept turning her head behind her like she expected somebody to be right there. When I pulled over, she came to my truck quick and asked if I could take her to the Flying J in Iuka. Her hands were shaking so hard she could barely get the passenger door closed. She said her car broke down. That was all. I asked if she was okay, and she said, "Just get me to the truck stop, please." Her voice was flat, tired, like she had been crying for a long time before I saw her. I did not like leaving her out there alone, so I drove her in. She kept looking out the window into the trees. At one point she said, "Lo, he is still out there." I asked who. She did not answer. At the Flying J, she jumped out before I could even park straight. She thanked me once, then went inside and used the payphone by the counter. That stuck with me. Who even uses a payphone now? I remember buying a bad coffee there and dropping the lid in the trash. The place smelled like fried food and old mop water. By the time I got back on the road, I had already started to forget her face. For the next few weeks, I ran that same route 3 more times. I kept looking for her car, though I told myself I was being stupid. The woods stayed dark and still. Once I thought I saw a person standing between the trees, but when I looked again, it was just a pale trunk and a hanging branch. Another time, I heard a thump against the side of my trailer and nearly pulled over, but there was nothing there. Could have been a branch, could have been trash. I kept driving. The 4th time, I saw the burgundy Altima again. Same shoulder, same hazards blinking, same little crack in the driver door. That part made my skin crawl in a way I could not explain. I slowed down and stared, then finally pulled to the side and got out with my flashlight in one hand and my phone in the other. The car was empty. No woman, no keys, no bag. There was a styrofoam cup in the cup holder, with coffee still in it, and it was warm enough that I could feel it through the cup when I touched it. That was the worst part for me. It meant the car had not been there long. I looked around the ditch, the tree line, the road behind me. Nothing moved. Even the crickets seemed to stop. I called dispatch again, this time with a tighter voice than I wanted. 2 deputies came out in about 20 minutes. One of them was a broad man named Deputy Lusk, which I thought was weird. They ran the plates and checked the VIN. The car came back stolen. It had been taken from a woman missing out of Corinth for 3 weeks. Her last known location was Highway 45 South. The deputy told me I may have been one of the last people to talk to her. He said it plain, like he was talking about weather. I sat on my truck step and just stared at the headlights washing over the trees. I remember thinking about that little payphone inside the Flying J. I remember thinking maybe I should have asked more questions. Maybe I should have waited. Maybe I should have remembered her face better. That kind of thinking does nothing, but your mind still does it. They searched the area for days. Dogs. Flashlights. More deputies. Nothing came of it that I ever heard. The case stayed open. I kept driving, because that is what truckers do, but I stopped looking at that shoulder the same way. I still take that route sometimes, and every time I reach those woods, I ease off the gas without meaning to. There is one thing that still gets me. I never saw who she was running from, and nobody ever found out either. Sometimes I think about that warm cup in the car and how clean the dash was, like somebody had been sitting there not long before I found it. On nights like that, the road feels too long, the trees feel too close, and even now I keep my doors locked before I hit that stretch. I've done solo backpacking trips since I was 22. I'm not someone who scares easy. But there's this one trip through Pisgah National Forest near Brevard, North Carolina, a 4-day loop I'd done twice before, that I still can't fully explain. And believe me, I've tried. My name is Thessaly Vance. I'm a physical therapist from Asheville. I take solo trips into the woods 3 or 4 times a year. Nothing unusual about that. I parked my Subaru at Davidson River Campground trailhead on a Thursday, before sunrise, had my pack, my water filter, 4 days of food, and my Garmin InReach Mini 2 satellite communicator. My mom always asks if I carry that thing. This time she would have been proud. Day 1 was completely fine. 9 miles, creek crossing, freeze-dried pasta for dinner. Normal trip stuff. Day 2 is where everything went sideways. Mid-morning, a trail marker had been knocked over, washed out from rain, looked like. Half buried in mud. I took what I thought was the right fork. Walked maybe 40 minutes before I realized the terrain didn't match my map. I wasn't panicking though. I had GPS coordinates. It wasn't a crisis. Then I saw it. A small structure sitting in a clearing, painted dark forest green, that exact shade the Forest Service uses on their buildings. Covered porch, picnic table out front. It looked completely official, like a ranger station or maintenance hut. The door was padlocked. Windows had curtains, plain beige ones, like you'd see in some old government office. I walked around it once. Nothing unusual. I figured I'd eat lunch at the picnic table and get my bearings. So I sat down, pulled out my map, unwrapped my peanut butter tortilla. The honey had leaked through the bag. I remember being annoyed about that. I was there maybe 10 minutes when I looked up at the window. The curtains moved. Not from wind. There was no wind. Door was locked. Windows were shut tight. It looked exactly like someone had put 2 fingers between the curtains, pulled them apart just slightly, then slowly let them fall back. Deliberate, like they were making sure they could see me without me seeing them. I sat completely still for 1 second. Then I packed my stuff and walked away fast. I didn't look back at that window. I genuinely did not want to know if those curtains moved again. I kept moving for almost a mile before I slowed down. Told myself it was probably a raccoon inside somehow. I almost believed it. Then I smelled wood smoke. I turned around. Back in the direction of that building, a thin, pale column of smoke was rising straight up through the trees. Someone had lit a fire. I didn't stop moving until I recognized the trail again. I finished the trip. Slept fine, mostly. Kept my bear spray unclipped both nights, though. When I got back to Brevard, I went straight to the Pisgah District Ranger Station on Pisgah Highway. Told a ranger, older guy, name tag said Tollefson. Told him everything. He listened, typed something, then looked up at me genuinely confused. Not polite confused, actually confused. He said there is no Forest Service building at those coordinates. No ranger station, no maintenance structure, nothing. He wrote down my GPS coordinates himself. Said he'd send someone to check. I never got a call back. I followed up once. Got voicemail, left a message, nothing. 2 months later, I pulled up that coordinate on Google Earth. There was a structure there. Green roof, small clearing, picnic table visible from the satellite image. The photo was dated 2019. I switched to the most recent update. Just trees. No clearing, no building, like it never existed. I've checked that spot probably 30 times since. I keep thinking some document or permit record will show up. Nothing ever does. I don't know who was inside that building. I don't know why there's no record of it anywhere. I don't know what happened to it between 2019 and now. What I do know is, whoever was standing behind those curtains watching me eat lunch never came outside. And I'm still not sure if that's a good thing.